Hello, hello, hello. What is up, YouTube family, soul family? This is Oren Harris live, also known as O. O is my nickname. O is also part of my brand. It stands for oneness, unity, heaven on earth, and living your highest potential. So, I'm going to do a deep dive here into flow with you today. Flow, also known as the zone, also known as flow state, this peak performance state of consciousness whereby you are your best, most badass self. You're actually beyond yourself. There's the first clue. So when we're in flow, we tend to be in the right place at the right time, connected to the right people, saying the right things. Our performance level is beyond our normal skill or talent level. We're basically being the best version of ourselves. We have extrasensory perception. We seem to be more telepathic, almost psychic sometimes because we're more in tune. Everything is better in flow. Hence why the search, the quest for flow is like the quest for the Holy Grail. And the billion-dollar question is how? How? That's what you may be asking yourself. That's what many people are asking. How can I tap into the flow? How can I be in this flow state that feels so great, that feels so connected, and where I'm able to perform at the highest level, whether that performance is as a coach, as a speaker, as an artist, a CEO, an athlete, a writer, a blogger, a dancer, whatever it is that you are doing, however it is that you are expressing yourself and giving your gifts, when you are tuned into flow, when you're tapped into flow, you do it exponentially greater. Not to mention, flow is great for your body, because one of the things that happens when we're in a flow state is our body is more relaxed. Our brain waves are slowed down. Our nervous system is in a greater state of equilibrium. So this is actually my first YouTube live. I've done hundreds of live videos. And so I am not familiar with this interface. So if you are on here live, if anyone's on here watching live, please leave me a comment, leave me a sign, however that happens here on YouTube Live. And I will dive right into this distinction of going from flow hacker to flow master, or from flow hacking to flow mastery. How I'm loosely defining the word mastery, because mastery is not a finite point. It's not like something you arrive and go, oh, I'm at mastery, I'm a master, and that's it. Mastery is infinite. But how I will loosely define the word mastery is to be able to tap into the flow consistently. That's a state of empowerment, being able to do it consistently, not just here or there, or when the stars and the moon are lined up properly, or when you happen to just slip up, trip up, and find yourself in the flow, or when you succeed, not just occasionally, but consistently, to tap into the flow in every area of your life rather than one or two isolated areas. For most people on their path of exploration with flow, there are one or maybe two or more areas that are more conducive to tapping into flow. For example, it could be when you're traveling. Like if you're traveling and you give yourself permission to just relax and be yourself and to be free, you'll notice that you'll experience much more flow when you're traveling. Or if you really love what it is that you're doing, or if you're in service, most people have a zone where their flow experiences happen to occur most often. For an extreme sports athlete, it's extreme sports. So when they're snowboarding down the side of a mountain, or big wave surfing, then that will be the area that they experience that sense of aliveness, that flow state, that peak performance state of consciousness. But maybe in their business, their relationships, their health, and the rest of their life, their flow level is like very minimal. And so part of mastery in my experience and how I'm defining mastery is the ability to tap into flow and to be in flow in every area of your life, not just one. That's when you know you really are at the source code. You're really at the source of what flow truly is. And then the third area that I would define as mastery in flow, and this is probably the boldest thing that I can say, but I can say it with absolute certainty and integrity because it's been my experience, is to be able to tap into the flow deliberately, flow on tap at will, to be able to consciously intend however and do whatever it is that you may do to get in the flow, but be able to do it at will. So tap into the flow consistently, tap into the flow at will, and be able to be in flow in every area of your life. That's how I'm defining mastery. So flow hacking, how I would distinguish that from flow hacking is getting better and better and better at utilizing some sort of technique, some sort of modality, some sort of medium to be able to successfully tap into the flow. Now, if you can do that, then that is incredibly empowering and very powerful. Being able to tap into the flow, to hack into the flow. But even the best flow hacker at the peak of their flow hacking ability, it still pales in comparison to stepping into the realm of mastery. It's incomparable in my experience. And so the hacker mentality, it is the scientist in us, right? And that's why that is one approach, that is one angle towards flow, is understanding the science of flow, what's happening in our brain, what's happening in our body, in our nervous system, in our physiology, in our biology, things that we can manipulate, such as our breathing, our movement. We can manipulate our challenge level. If we have a high enough challenge level that requires more out of us, and we have a certain level of presence, if you combine the two of those, these are all different ways that you can hack into the flow. But that's not what I want to spend most of my time sharing with you here on today's video. How do you move into the realm of mastery? I'm going to fast forward, and then I will backtrack and kind of take you along the steps. So fast forward, the revelation that eventually you will have, and that you can have right now, at the very least on a level of understanding, which has some value to it, is that you can go with the flow, you can go against the flow. You can allow the flow, you can block the flow. You can tune into the flow, you can tune out of the flow. But the flow is, and this is the big reveal, you are the flow. And that might sound poetic or philosophical or spiritual, metaphysical. A practical way to say that is you're not actually separate from the flow. The flow is more your natural state. But what is natural in this world, the things that are the most natural, unfortunately, are not the most normal. So there's a distinction right there between normal and natural. Just because something's normal doesn't mean it's natural. It's normal in today's information overload, super busy, anxious world where there's a lot of fear. It's normal to be under varying levels of stress. That's why if someone comes along and they're in a state of bliss or ecstasy, then those things get categorized as almost an altered state of consciousness. But bliss is actually a more natural state of consciousness. Stress is more of an altered state of consciousness. But that is more normal. It's not that normal that you see many people walking around in bliss. And so what I'm saying is flow is actually a natural state of consciousness. This is key to understand, because if you believe that you're separate from the flow and that you're hacking into it, you're doing something and you're hacking into it, then it's going to limit you, and it's definitely going to keep you from entering the domain of mastery. You are not hacking into the flow, not really. You are revealing, you are tuning into, you are allowing what already is. So you cannot gain or lose the flow. I'll say that again. You cannot gain or lose the flow. You're not being even graced by God. You could argue that one, right? Because I do resonate with the idea of grace. But even that is a slippery idea. If you think that you're just being graced by God, that still implies that there is a separation between you and God, and that the power is only in the grace, just the same way the power might be in your flow hacking modality. But really, it's taking you to a place that's already your natural state, but a place that is not normal. Very key to understand. This is a revelation that I had, that I'm not separate from the flow. And I know that that is a key fundamental knowing that allows me to be in flow consistently in every area of my life and at will, not separate from the flow. You cannot gain or lose the flow. It's a state, right? So I say flow state. It's a state of consciousness. But you are consciousness. You are not the states. We experience states, very much like experiencing a radio station, a manifest station. 106.5, I'm making it up, right? I don't really listen to the radio, but 106.5, you tune in there, it's the hip hop station. It's the hip hop universe, all things hip hop, all your favorite hip hop songs, whoever your favorite artist may be. Kendrick Lamar, Childish Gambino, Logic. Those are some of my favorites, right? And then you tune from 106.5 to 98.6. 98.6 might be playing country music. Don't really know any country songs. I'm sure I know a few. But when you tune to that station, 98.6, the hip hop station is still there. But you're in the country universe now. So all things are country. All things that you witness, experience, perceive, and see in that universe are country. The other station, the hip hop station, did not go away. So use that as an analogy that the flow station doesn't go away. And if you're the one tuning the stations, you're not separate from the radio. You're the one tuning from one station to the other. The idea is to become aware that you're tuning. This is how you become conscious that you are not separate from the flow. See, this puts you in a state of abundance and an abundant relationship with the flow. So you're not trying to just tap into the flow or seeking the flow. You're not separate from the flow. And one of the things that's more powerful than any state that you can choose, including the flow state station, is the ability itself to choose. This is the difference between being the genie and having wishes. Wishes are like states. You could have 3 wishes, 10 wishes, 20 wishes, 100 wishes. You're like, oh my God, I have 100 wishes. All right, I can use these wishes to get whatever it is that I want in life. But then if you have 100 wishes, and then your wishes are all dried up. But if you're the genie, then you can endlessly reproduce the wishes. It's the same thing with the flow. To really put it in perspective and put you in an abundant relationship with flow, if you realize that you are the one, this is consciousness, right? That's animating, that's giving life to these different stations, the flow station, the bliss station, the frustration station, the inspiration station, whatever station, whatever state of consciousness, you are consciousness. That's where your real power is. That's the genie. The states are the wishes. So yes, the wishes are amazing. The manifestations are amazing. The experience of these manifestations are amazing. And most of us would prefer to experience bliss, ecstasy, inspiration, flow, rather than frustration, apathy, anger, rage. But the real power is in the deeper realization that you are the one tuning the stations. You are consciousness, and it's in your ability to choose, not what it is that you choose. That has power in it, but there's more power in the fact that you can choose anything. So what being, what entity can be anything? God, source, the infinite, love, can be anything because it's all things. And so one of the master keys to flow mastery is to be love, is to come to fall in love with, to accept is another way to say it, to come into a level of acceptance of all states. That's love. Love is the only time we're truly limitless, because it's when we are like the divine. Want to be like the divine, be like the divine. So love is the master key. Yes, there's other keys and things that you can do and focus on or not do to tune into the flow. But love is what releases resistance from our consciousness, and it's only resistance that has us resisting our natural state. Flow is a more natural state. It's when we are naturally present, feeling safe in our innocence, in love. Those are all natural states. So, mastering love will help you master the flow. And the good news about mastering love is it's like flow. You already are love. It's our resistance to that which we are. So we don't even have to try to acquire love. Can't acquire or attain love. We can only allow it or block it. So one more tip on this video, because this is my first live stream here on YouTube. I'd love to see how this goes, if people are engaging with it. So if you're enjoying this video, if you're watching it now or in the future, I can't tell if you're watching it now, please do leave a comment, because this will inspire me, or it will add to my inspiration to do live videos on YouTube. So another key is integrity. And what are we integrating? What are we coming into integrity with? Spirit or our true self? Because the vibration, the frequency, the state of being of our true self is our natural state. And so you can look at the different areas of your life, your career, your relationships, your health, these being the three main areas of our life, and how much are you in integrity with your heart and your spirit? Another way simple way to say that is in a state of authenticity. You see, because when your vision, your words, your actions, your decisions are in alignment with that which is truly in alignment with your heart and your spirit, then now you're aligning yourself with your true self, with your natural state, which then aligns you with nature, aka life, aka the universe. And that's one of the things that tunes you into the flow. So do a check in your life and see where you are in integrity, see where you are out of integrity. Wherever you're out of integrity, get back in integrity. Forgive yourself for it. Make a plan. Because aligning your self, your mind, body, words, actions with spirit, with that frequency of your true self, the space where you're the most authentic, will have you predictably more consistently in flow. Because much of the resistance we experience in life is simply a resistance to our true self, resistance to our true north, resistance to our truth, the truth in our hearts, not the ideas in our mind or ego structure. This is our identity. This is the story of self, the history, the memories, the ideas, the beliefs, assumptions, the fears, the judgments is all existing in the I, the self. And what happens is, what happens is when we're in flow, there's no I in flow, or there's little to no I in flow. So we go from this I to our infinite self. This is why there's not a lot of thought or thinking in flow. There's just being, there's just doing, or it being done. So if you start to look at flow more from a perspective of mastery, more long term, if you're like, okay, wait a minute, there's no I in flow, then if you wanted to be in flow more often, then you'd have to figure out some way, if you look at it as a kind of like a scientist, to get beyond yourself. And so by getting into alignment with your true self, this is one of the ways you get beyond yourself. Because when you are when you're vested in any version of a false self at all, then that's where you're consistently anchoring yourself. But if you anchor yourself in your true self, even if it requires courage or vulnerability, or it's difficult or requires you to grow in some way, then you're more consistently going to be aligned to your true nature, and you will be more consistently in that expanded state of consciousness where you're more limitless, because you're not bound by the ideas that are inside of your idea of self. So loving yourself in all aspects of yourself, ironically, the self, the ego structure, you kind of love it to sleep in a way. There's no sense trying to get rid of your ego, because that comes from judgment, not love. But when you love it, when you love every aspect of your experience, then that energy that was getting used from judgment or fear of parts of yourself, that consciousness, that energy that was getting used to hide or control yourself or resist yourself, all of it comes back into you as clarity, as presence, as power. And that also is what's happening. That's the state that you're in when you're in flow. So you could take this idea of getting beyond the self deliberately, intentionally, rather than just accidentally. Somehow you manage to temporarily get beyond yourself. And this is where spiritual awakening or self-realization plays a part in flow, especially if you're going to move into mastery, because awakening beyond the self, or the ideas of self, the imaginary self, sometimes called the I, the identity, the separate self, the awakening to the true self. And you come to realize that you as spirit is more of who you really are than anything you're expressing yourself or have expressed yourself, or even your personality structure is not who you are. That's naturally going to have you be in flow much more often. If you come to identify with and relate to yourself as spirit more than the expressions or creations of yourself called yourself. So this is where self-realization now intertwines with self-actualization, which is living your highest potential. So integrity, but specifically an integrity to heart and spirit, and that which is truly in alignment with your spirits. You know, at the center of your being, you know who you are, you know what's true for you, you're clear, and you know what that alignment is. So calibrating your whole life, your decisions, your work, your career, your relationships, intentionally doing whatever you need to do, healing, learning, growing, deciding, committing, devoting yourself to being your true self. Because when you hack into flow, if you manage to hack into flow or into a higher state of consciousness, and then you're just accessing it. But if you're not fundamentally changing your being, transforming your identity, then you're going to have to keep accessing. And of course, that's going to be very limiting. But now if you transform your whole identity, transform your being to be more in alignment with your true self, then naturally you're going to be in more of that natural state of receptivity and attunement. And so flow is just more natural because flow is a natural state. And yes, our intentions, our mission, our purpose, there are factors that are influencing the flow, how big of a game we're playing in life, how big of a mission. The reason those things can actually induce a flow state, if you take something that's beyond what you know how to do, but actually resonates with you, actually is important, is because it gets you beyond yourself. So that is something that you can do with your goals, your visions in every single area of your life, to say yes to devote yourself to goals, not just that you are easy for you to accomplish, but the ones that truly resonate and bring an aliveness in you. That aliveness that you feel in the vision is literally expanding you into that flow. So choose goals, intentions, missions, desires that require God in you to come alive, that require the flow to be activated so that you can accomplish it. If you're only doing stuff within your identity that you know that you're capable of doing, then you're not generating much current energy. That's the flow. So playing a bigger game, something that takes you beyond yourself, especially if it's for other people. All right. Much more to say on this topic. Leave me a comment, leave me any questions. This is kind of an experiment, getting on YouTube right now. And I would love to find a flow on YouTube. And I have so much more to share about flow and living your highest potential and unlocking your spiritual gifts and leaving your soul's legacy and much, 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 much more. And I would love to hear from you. I would love to serve you on this platform. That is it for now. Orrin Harris, AKA O, signing off. All right. Peace.